guy makes a point. Oh, check this out. This guy makes a point. All right, let's see what we got. Let's see. So YCS Neto, by the way, Neto, are you serious about selling me that card? Are you gonna be at YCS Vegas, or are you talking about shipping it to me, or what? You know. Also, why would you want to keep multiple CR Rotas? You know, it's a limited card. It's not going to 2 or anything.
Yu-Gi-Oh as a game has been notoriously about players.
Is Yu-Gi-Oh getting rid of negates? Wow, this video popped the F off. First, let me think about this. Is Yu-Gi-Oh getting rid of negates? I'm trying to think of the boss monsters that we have right now and think about, well, I guess I would need to know, he starts the video showing True King of all calamities. This is more or less like a floodgate? But I guess it does negate. Let me think. How long ago was Baron, chat? Purely has no negates. All right, well, hold on. Let's think about new archetypes, competitive ones. Let's see. And I guess we'll just even focus on monsters. Purely, there's no Omni negates, or there's really no negates at all. What else was in the Purely set, chat? Hold on. Was that Makanko? Makanko is like doesn't even fucking count. Rescue Ace. I don't think there's any Omni negates in Rescue Ace. Wild Survivors. There's definitely none in Vanquished Soul. There's none in the... I haven't even fucking read the dinosaur cards. SHS has negates. Okay, so does SHS have negates, or does the monster it summon, the extra deck monster? I would argue Super Heavy Samurai doesn't have negates. But if you look through it as in the prism of, oh, it makes Appaloosa, it makes... These are just generic extra deck cards. You know what I mean? Adventurer had Griffin. Yeah, but that's a while ago. If you're bringing up I will give you, Adventurer had Griffin, but like, that's kind of a while ago, man. You know, like what I guess I'm asking chat, like, what's a new archetype Konami's bringing out that has just like, you know, has like Omni negates and stuff in it? Evolzer Raj? Because I mean, they're still giving us Infernity barriers. Technically, Vanquish Soul has one. Sprite, dude, I still consider Sprite. Hold on, let's watch the video first.
Trying to create no-win situations for the opponent. The most common example of which is the classic 5-negate board, where players assemble an in-board of several monsters with a negate, an effect where players get to cancel the activation or the effect of a card your opponent activates. All this, and...
This card sucks, by the way. And every player thinks that this card's trash. Manadium? Does it? It has an Infernity barrier. I don't know if it has negates though. It just, again, it's just like SH. It just makes negates.
An attempt to
but not an archetype.
Every possible card in the opponent's hand. Despite the strategy's effectiveness over various metagames throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's history, it has been almost exclusively perceived as unfun and bad game design. Listening to player feedback, Konami has shifted game design to focus in several new directions over the years. One such method was the introduction of hand traps. Hand traps provided a new method to interact with the opponent without requiring a turn or any board presence. Just having the card in hand was enough. This would warp the game to where decks would have to play a variety of anti-hand trap options or new, more powerful extenders to get around a line of play being stopped. Eventually, when hand traps couldn't completely cover the problem, Konami started to implement negate-proof cards such as Dark Ruler No More and Forbidden Droplets. These cards would become complete board breakers by negating large portions or even all of an opponent's field, thus responding to an opponent's attempts at stopping interaction by, in turn, denying them any interaction. This would also warp the game to where meta decks would often look for disruptions outside of those traditionally provided by monster effects. However, despite all this change over the years, that fundamental complaint remained. The game was still unfun for a lot of players. What would Konami try this time to fix that core issue that has plagued so many players?
Nothing.
They decided that the best option was to slowly change how Yu-Gi-Oh handles its negates. Now, you might start by saying, wait a minute, negates haven't gone anywhere in the metagame. And you'd be right. Negates haven't gone anywhere. Baron de Fleur, Appaloosa, and every frustrating floodgate still terrorize the modern Yu-Gi-Oh landscape.
How is... Okay, I cannot let this go. I'm going to swear here, because this is how upset I am. How the fuck is Gozen Match a negate? So, like, how is this a negate? It negates my plays. Press 1 if then every card that can potentially be disruptive is a negate. Like, what? If this was skill drain, I'm sorry, chat, and I understand this is nitpicking, but just if it even smells like an MDT Farfa Floodgate bad, I'm already just gonna have my antennas up. I just this is a negate. That's how the fuck is Gozen Match in it? It doesn't negate anything. Like, the word negate's not even on the card. I'm sorry, I just had to put. If you want to say unfun cards, I mean, just put half the cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Up there. I just had to, what's it called? It's really not a negate. These are actually, I would have put, for the sake of this video, I would have either put Skill Drain, or if you just wanted another, I would have put Borreload Savage Dragon. Because that's just another generic negate that, Samurai can make. Manadium can make that card too, if they want.
Where this new design philosophy shines is in the archetypes. Let's look at Telemans and Ishizu as a starting example. Within the two archetypes and the powerful deck they form, they have only two generic negates, Telemans Suliak and Telemans Rukalos. These are fantastically powerful cards, but as everyone who played during Tier 0...
Don't they got a counter trap? Do they... So what counts as a negate? Like, don't they have a counter trap, right? Like, they have a counter trap?
Format.
He forgot crying.
What makes this deck powerful?
It's kind of important for your argument.
Instead, the ability of the deck's engine to make plays on either player's turn. This, combined with the deck's many alternative removal effects, creates a playstyle where outputting raw negates often was a secondary objective to abusing raw combo power to throw out a variety of destruction, shuffles, and bounces. This typically would be more effective than the negate walls that other decks at the time could output. All this would push the boundaries on Yu-Gi-Oh's design philosophy for a controversial...
Such a skillful format. Make Abyss Dweller win YCS Finals of Pasadena. Press 1 if such a most skillful format ever. Make Abyss Dweller win game. I don't know, man. Everyone told me it's the most greatest format, most skillful format ever. And here goes the best player in the entire world just getting floodgated. Cool. Fun format. So skillful. Make Abyss Dweller win game. Gotcha.
Yet competitively well-liked
skillful
format
by
some.
the way.
Let's look at a less controversial example.
I can't wait to get Abyss Dweller in 3 years, Cap. It'll be so much heckin' fun then.
Deck that instead of making a bundle of negates to stop an opponent's plays, would instead remove an opponent's abilities to play.
This is
the
true.
Gimmick of zone locking or banishing an opponent's deck.
Yeah, this is
two
true.
options that aren't traditional negates, but are just as game-winning and toxic. Kind of missing the point of exploring new game design spaces, but that is classic Konami. This trend also continues with Konami's recent deck build packs. Mechanco, the new ritual equipped deck, focuses entirely on abusing Snatch Steal type effects to repeatedly steal opponents' monsters. Purely, the cute XYZ deck abuses limited once per turn effects to hit the opponent with a barrage of bounces, attaching, and sending the bottom deck. Vanquish Soul use column destruction of all things, and generic free value in games. There are quite a few more I could go over, but these cover all the points I need to, and do so showing the most competitive success. All this to say that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still getting faster and faster, but with more varied forms of disruption outside of a bland negate. So, I think it's very clear that this is probably a positive design change, but let's go over some of the reasons why this could be good. At its most simple level, this can be a horizontal expansion of game design caused by just looking for new mechanics and ways to play the game. It keeps things fresh and decks unique. Of course, the new low negate format rewards skilled play, as players now have to be more careful about what an opponent can do when cards are moved around instead of flat out negated. All this hopefully without degenerating into the famously unpopular negate turbo style of play Yu-Gi-Oh! Ends up in with surprising frequency. Alternative gimmicks open up the game for new types of interaction not previously seen in the game. With no new mainline Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game series following Vrains, new extra deck mechanics are not coming into the game, and unlike more flexible games like Magic, the Gathering, and Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been relatively hesitant to change its fundamental mechanics. While this has been a good thing for Konami in the past, perhaps it's time to really push the boundaries of
how do you do this?
Similar to how the introduction of archetypes did back in the GX and 5D eras of Yu-Gi-Oh! Besides, as anyone will tell you, basic negates are just boring. So, what does this all mean? Well, hand traps and blow arts aren't going away in the metagame. If anything, they will likely become better. Or new hand traps were released to counter new problems, as has always been the case in Yu-Gi-Oh! It'll take most decks a while to fully catch up with this new speed of play. Previously, during Power of the Elements, very few strategies could keep up with the tier limit and sprite powerhouses. In this new format, decks like Purely, Kashtira, Super Heavy Samurai, and more have been pushed up in power level to a spot just below the previous highest bar. With new Rogue and Casual support being announced with little fanfare,
I would question the naming of this. I would question the naming of this format, chat. Sprite format. Did Sprite format truly exist, chat? If this is well, I feel like this needs to be defined as either OCG or TCG because our games are just like too diverted at this point. I would argue no. There is no such thing as Sprite format. Now, if you want to say Pope format, okay, fine. But like, don't tell me that Math Mech wasn't a contender or that like Tier Element wasn't awesome too. Like, it was no. Now Tier 0, yeah, that's real. Even Cash is like real, but Sprite format, it's not real.
that would have blown the lids off previous formats.
It was
In other words,
but what does that
really
mean?
Boiling this frog. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Provided Konami can evenly support decks and their themes, not miss the point of low negate decks entirely like with Kashtira, and not completely leave out casual players. It's not to say that negates will go away. God knows Konami is like a politician when it comes to money. But I think negates will hopefully be more well utilized, or limited to a few decks where they can really go crazy with it. I mean, look at Sprite, the poster child for negate turbo decks in the modern age. Level 2s with easy to use negates that summon themselves for free. I said in a previous video that this current era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is defined not by any rules, but instead by the lack of them. Modern strategies lack restrictions that defined most previous decks and how we built them. These new forms of disruptions that are so prevalent in today's metagame appear to be another aspect of this, perhaps taking the game in what I think is a better direction. But this is Konami, so who knows? With modern day deck prices, you probably won't be able to afford these new decks anyway. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Also,
okay, you know what? That's a solid video, even if I don't agree with everything. That's a nice little. I've never heard of this channel, chat. Maybe because he was posting Ribbit King PS2 and GameCube 2 weeks.